The mystery of vanishing lakes, unveiling Earth's hidden forces. Imagine standing on the banks of a pristine, tranquil lake. The sun glistens on the water's surface, birds chirp nearby, and all seems perfectly serene. But overnight, without warning, that lake is gone, vanished without a trace. It seems impossible, doesn't it? Lakes are one of nature's most enduring features, yet in specific cases they prove to be just as fleeting as a passing storm. How can something as immense as a lake simply disappear? From human-made catastrophes to Earth's enigmatic geological forces, unlikely forces are at play. As lakes vanish, they leave behind questions and sometimes clues that reveal the restless, unpredictable nature of our planet. In this video, we'll explore fascinating real-life cases of disappearing lakes, from Louisiana's legendary Lake Peigneur disaster to the quiet disappearance of remote glacial pools. Along the way, you'll discover the immense power hidden beneath the surface of our Earth, the role of human activity in accelerating change, and the lessons these vanishings teach us about the delicate balance of our natural world. So get ready to dive deep into a story that's as mysterious as it is awe-inspiring. After all, lakes aren't supposed to disappear, or are they? Let's start with a simple question. What does it actually mean for a lake to vanish? While this phrase sounds dramatic, there's a spectrum of vanishing acts. On one end, sudden and catastrophic disappearances wipe out entire lakes in moments. On the other, slow, almost imperceptible draining might take decades. Consider the forces at play. A lake's water can vanish underground, into fissures or subterranean rivers. Its water can evaporate under extreme heat or climate changes, leaving behind only a dry, cracked basin. Or, in some cases, human activity, deliberate or accidental, can strip the lake of its form completely. Some vanishings feel like explosions, grabbing headlines with their violence. Others whisper their way into history, just another casualty of our changing planet. But each case is more than an isolated event. It's part of a grander story about Earth's hidden forces, and the interplay between human ambition and the natural world. Now, let's dive into two extraordinary examples of lakes that vanished, dramatically, unexpectedly, and with fascinating consequences. On November 20th, 1980, Lake Peigneur in Louisiana appeared as ordinary as ever. It was calm and vast, nestling quietly within Jefferson Island. But beneath the lake, a catastrophe was brewing. In a matter of minutes, Lake Peigneur transformed into one of the most infamous examples of a vanishing lake. It all began with a routine drilling operation. Texaco oil drillers had been working on the lake when they accidentally punctured the roof of the diamond crystal salt mine lying beneath the waters. What followed was nothing short of a geological nightmare. The lake's waters began to spiral downward in an enormous whirlpool. Boats anchored in the lake were sucked into the chaos, and within moments the whirlpool consumed the entire lake. Water from surrounding rivers even reversed their flow, rushing into the crater left behind. By the time everything settled, Lake Peigneur had transformed into a massive sinkhole. The salt mine was completely destroyed, but miraculously, everyone involved survived. What remained, though, was a stark example of how human error can trigger Earth's hidden powers to act with lethal speed. Lake Peigneur's dramatic disappearance shows how delicate our interactions with natural features can be. One mistake unearths forces far beyond our comprehension, rewriting landscapes in a matter of minutes. If Lake Peigneur showcases human error, the story of glacial lakes proves that disappearing lakes can also unfold naturally and quietly. Imagine a pristine glacial lake nestled in the remote Himalayas, Andes, or Alaska. These lakes form when melting glaciers create basins full of cold, fresh water. But beneath their stillness is fragility. Like ticking time bombs, they exist at the mercy of both melting ice and underground paths. How do they vanish? Often the water isn't really gone, it escapes. Glacial lakes sometimes drain rapidly into hidden channels beneath the earth, forming what's known as a GLOF, or glacial lake outburst flood. This silent exodus of water can take hours or even occur imperceptibly over weeks. Climate change has accelerated these vanishings. Melting glaciers are pouring more water into these lakes, straining their natural retaining walls until they collapse. In places like Bhutan, Nepal, and Pakistan, entire valleys downstream face abrupt flooding when these lakes decide to vanish. Unlike the dramatic whirlpool of Lake Peigneur, glacial lakes leave behind scars etched into the landscape and even human communities. They offer an urgent reminder that while their disappearance may seem natural, it is often linked to human-induced climate change. What lies beneath a vanishing lake? Often the answer is not immediately visible. Beneath the surface of our planet exists a complex, dynamic system of geological forces. These hidden powers silently reshape our world in ways that astonish and mystify. One culprit behind many disappearing lakes is geology itself. Tectonic activity creates fractures in the Earth's crust, forming pathways for water to escape. Some lake beds are riddled with cracks that eventually drain water into underground rivers or aquifers. Volcanic activity also plays its role. Some volcanic lakes disappear as magma activity ceases, changing pressure and heat beneath the surface. In rare cases, eruptions can drain an entire body of water, leaving behind empty craters. Then there's erosion. Over centuries, a lake's boundaries may naturally weaken as rock and soil erode, allowing water to seep out unnoticed. Vanishing lakes remind us of how much happens beneath our feet. Earth is alive, restless, and in constant flux, shaping the landscapes we take for granted. While natural forces play a significant role, human activity often accelerates the disappearance of lakes. Lake Peigneur is an extreme example, but it's far from the only instance. Take underground mining and drilling, which changes the structural integrity of rock layers beneath lakes. Or consider groundwater pumping, where excessive extraction lowers the water table until lakes simply dry up. Even dams designed to control water flow can disrupt ecosystems so drastically that nearby lakes shrink or disappear entirely. Deforestation and urbanization also contribute. Without trees to absorb rainfall and anchor soil, water erosion intensifies, leading to changes in how lakes behave. In essence, humans are capable of working alongside nature or against it when it comes to disappearing lakes. With each vanishing, we are reminded of the delicate balance between human needs and preserving these fragile ecosystems. But why does it matter if a lake disappears? Aren't they just lakes after all? The truth is, lakes are more than static pools of water. They are intricately connected to the environment, acting as reservoirs of biodiversity and key players in weather and water cycles. When a lake vanishes, the ecosystem around it crumbles. Animals lose habitats. Plant life that relies on consistent water dies off. On a global scale, disappearing lakes highlight larger, pressing issues. A drained glacial lake, for instance, tells the story of a warming climate and its escalating consequences. A dried-up lake linked to groundwater pumping reflects unsustainable resource use. Beyond ecosystems, vanishing lakes also pose direct threats to humans. Flooding after glacial lake outbursts affects entire communities, while the loss of freshwater reservoirs can disrupt food and water supplies for millions. Each time water vanishes, it leaves behind answers, and often those answers are warnings. So, what can we learn from the phenomenon of vanishing lakes? First, these lakes are signals. They teach us about Earth's geological forces, hidden beneath the surface, constantly shaping our environment. They show how interconnected Earth's systems are, from underground caverns to glacial formations. Second, they remind us of nature's fragility. Glacial lakes, in particular, underscore the dire consequences of climate change. As these lakes grow unstable, they signal tipping points we can no longer ignore. Third, vanishing lakes serve as a wake-up call for humanity's role on Earth. They force us to confront the impacts of mining, drilling, deforestation, and unsustainable water use. By paying attention to disappearing lakes, we gain a deeper respect for the planet's complexity and our responsibility to preserve it for future generations. The idea of a lake vanishing feels like something out of science fiction, but as we've seen, it's part of reality. From the dramatic whirlpool of Lake Peigneur to the quiet draining of glacial lakes, each disappearance tells a story that connects geology, climate, and human activity. These lakes signal the immense power beneath our feet, the fragility of ecosystems, and the unintended consequences of our actions. They are not just watery voids. They are stories waiting to be understood, warnings waiting to be heeded. As we marvel at these natural mysteries, let us also pause to appreciate the intricate balance that keeps our world intact. After all, our planet is constantly shifting, evolving, and shaping itself, one vanishing lake at a time. So the next time you find yourself by the edge of a serene lake, take a moment to wonder, what hidden forces might be at work beneath its surface, and what might this lake teach us if it ever decides to disappear?